the FA Cup. Details of this and many more will be yours when we return for a break. Stay with us.
From the line, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and the happenings on The Fact Today. Only on ATN.
Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and on this edition of the program, I have with me a veteran in the sports business here in Nigeria, China Chiro, a known face. Nice to have you, China.
Nice to be here, Cyril. Good morning, everybody.
Okay, and we'll get started from the local scene as usual, and in a bid to ensure that there are proactive moves to bolster and, of course, unify efforts for sporting success here in Nigeria, the Minister of Sports Development, Senator John Owino, is set to host a crucial meeting with the Sports Federation presidents here in Nigeria. He believes that discussion with them will be strategic ahead of the African Games. China Sports Minister Ewang, when he came on board, he actually confessed his lack of knowledge in the sports terrain. But in the last few months, he's been going around meeting with major stakeholders, and it looks like he's on the right track. What do you think?
I think he is, right? I insist that when you are a minister, it's a political position.
Right.
Like a commissioner. You may not, and I pick my words carefully, you may not be a technocrat in that field. And that's why you have directors, you have other technocrats there that you take advice from. So you should be a manager of people. So he has been able to look at the situation and probably trying to manage it at this point. So hopefully this meeting will bear fruit in future.
Meetings with Sports Federation President, with the Sports Minister should bear fruits in the future. And talking about bearing fruits, China, because before we get to football, let me bring this in. At the weekend, we heard that all of the money is owed sports athletes, every other sports discipline that has been owed in the past. All of these have been approved for payment. This is one coming from the sports minister, indicating that the president Tinubu had approval of this money.
And it's funny to note that we got reports that this money has been squandered by the NFF at some point. So from this development, it just shows that the money has not been approved or released yet. Coming a week to the start of the AFCON, it's a good moral booster. Because a lot of those players who played the AFCON are being owed, and for the new players in the team, they can have hope that they won't be owed or their money will be paid eventually. And for other athletes, we have the Olympic Games coming up soon, and we have other sporting events coming up soon. So it's good for morale that what you have been owed has been paid or has been approved to be paid just at the start of the year. So it's good for morale. Well,
it's something disturbing. Approval is one thing. Yes. Actual release of funds is another. In the past, we've always heard of these approvals, but the athletes, get excited and get most disappointed when the money don't come.
Yeah, I'm just being optimistic here. Hopefully it will be different. When I was speaking, I first said have been paid, and I said have been approved to be paid. So because we all know that approval is one thing, release is another, and being paid is a third thing. So it's a process. It won't be like we have seen in the past. Hopefully, Ewang, the new minister, will be true to his words. Hopefully, Tinubu, the president, will be true to his "let the poor breathe" statement. So let's believe that after approval, we come release, and then the athletes being paid, and being paid what they are owed, and not what they decide to pay them.
Well, let's hope that the time of this will be good enough for the athletes to have benefit from their money. After all, they've been owed several months. We hear like the coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria was owed for about 15 months, and that's not good enough for a country like Nigeria. Yes, we often hear of countries owing athletes, but for a country like Nigeria to owe in the range of 15 months, that's really a serious situation. Let's pray that this release will be soonest, and actual cash credited to the accounts of these athletes who had sacrificed a lot in Nigeria is on the sporting map. Let's go to volleyball. And talking about volleyball reminds me this our China that Nigeria has been drawn against 2023 World Silver Medalist Egypt in Group A of the 2024 Para Volley African System Volleyball Zone Championship. We are not too known in volleyball when it comes to Africa here, but competing with the likes of Egypt in a group in the draw that was held in Rabat, Morocco, shows that we should be coming of age.
Yeah, but this is para volleyball. And Nigeria has not done badly in para sports.
Exactly.
We have not done badly. At the Paralympics, just say we win our medals. You know,
most medals.
Most medals. We win our most medals at the Paralympics, you know, especially powerlifting. Now, but again, para volleyball this time, I just see as a team that is good in the para events, in the Paralympic events. So Egypt, top rated side, but Nigeria should be top rated too. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed.
Nigeria in the same group with Morocco and Kenya. Let's hope that we'll be able to show ourselves in this. Meanwhile, there's a championship coming up on 29th to the 6th of February here in Nigeria, and we hope that, like China did allude there, when it comes to para sports, Nigeria is a powerhouse or is a big name, and this will continue to show even in volleyball. It's a completely new area, you know, but we know that when it comes to all the other powerlifting events, weightlifting and rest, Nigeria has always excelled, you know. It will continue in our spirit of excellence in para sports. From para sports, let's go to boxing. And over the weekend, we heard of Ngannou and, of course, Anthony Joshua's fight has been fixed for Saudi Arabia on the 7th, on this, I think, sometimes in March. Joshua wants to dream of taking on Fury and Alexander Usyk. Of course, the undisputed heavyweight championship belt is at stake. Anthony Joshua, can he really regain back lost titles or belts in boxing, starting, you know, in Saudi Arabia with the one against Francis Ngannou? Yeah. It's not a belt he won, but you know that it gives him a chance of taking on Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury.
His fight against Ngannou is more of an exhibition thing, right? But again, he wants to fight. Now, Francis dealt with Tyson Fury, even though by points decision. So he wants to fight. But even after that, the fight we are all looking for is Fury versus Alexander Usyk. That's the fight we're looking for. And of course, we are looking for, should I say, Joshua against the American Wilder.
Well, let's quickly, you know, move away from and of course go into football. Football proper right now. China, everybody's attention is on the African Cup of Nations. And talking about the African Cup of Nations, it is about 7 days away from now. The first match is on the 13th. There's the opening game on the 13th, and a lot of only at the weekend we saw squad, you know, numbers given out to all of the 24 teams that go into the competition. First, I'd like to ask you, how prepared is let's say Yamoussoukro or Abidjan to Côte d'Ivoire, to be specific, to hosting these 23 other countries coming for?
I think they are ready. This should have held in June, July last year. That's why it's actually called AFCON 2023 and not 24. But for some reasons, they moved it to January this year. So that 6 months head start they had in preparation to count for something. It's not the case of an AFCON we had some years back. I'll tell you about which one. The day before the opening ceremony, the stadium was still being painted. So we have gone beyond that at this time. So I want to believe that they are ready to host the world or to host Africa.
Well, the world Abidjan is ready to host Africa. And let's look at it. A lot of people have talked about viewership. We oftentimes stories of, you know, the very popular company that brings the sports, general football, to the rest of Africa, to be specific, not being part of this one. High cost, I understand, maybe, or politics. Which one is available here? Why are we not going to have the match from the most common medium around here?
It's about right ownership and a little bit of CAF politics, you know, but not delving so much into that politics. The right owners, as we know, as has shown a lot of the AFCONs, will not be showing it this time. But like somebody said, AFCON long before they came in.
Right.
So if they're out, the AFCON. Thank God that for Nigerian viewers, you know, they are, should I say, companies who will beam the AFCON live for Nigerian owners, for those who want to watch on their TV and who want to stream too. So we are not going to lose anything, basically, apart from the fact that what is known as Africa's biggest cable channel will not be showing the AFCON this time, which will be the first in many years.
Well, let's hope that we'll see the competition live on TV. Trust us here, we'll be following it up and, of course, bringing it to your living room as well. But let's get to, like I mentioned, it's just about 7 days away. Morocco, Guinea-Bissau, the very first team to arrive Abidjan.
Yeah, the Moroccans have shown something good about their planning. Right, has been evidence in how well they performed at the last World Cup, getting to the semi-final, the Women African Nations Cup, at the Women World Cup, at every football championship for 4 years. They've done really well. And it's not just about their performance or their position at the end. It's about how well they've organized their team. So being the first team to arrive, the region Morocco comes from, and most of their players come from, is quite different from the West and Ivory Coast. So it's always good to arrive a bit early to be able to get in tune with what's happening there. So good one for Morocco and then Guinea-Bissau too.
Guinea-Bissau they actually arrived almost about the same time with Morocco, but Morocco being the very first to arrive the Abidjan airport, received by dancing troupe and, of course, members of their delegation out there. Let's hope that this competition will bring this best, the 34th edition of the CAF Nations Cup here in Africa. I'm very sure a lot of our listeners, China, will be, our viewers will be like half prepared with the Super Eagles of Nigeria. While we have some teams beginning to arrive Abidjan, the Super Eagles of Nigeria to arrive Abuja any moment soon.
Yeah, there's and after that friendly match, they'll be in Abuja, and then, they are heading over to the Ivory Coast. I think this will be the best preparation of the Super Eagles since Pesero came into the team. Because before now, he has always only had 2 or 3 days to train with the team, and we are into a game. But for the team to have about 10 days of training between when the players arrive, when they had the full camp, and we play our first game on Sunday, which, like I said, is the longest stretch has had since he became coach of the team. So it should count for something. I expect better football from the Eagles. I expect better performance from the Eagles, even though it's a tough group we are in.
We're talking about the Super Eagles preparing towards the African Cup of Nations coming up in Abidjan in just about 7 days from now. We've seen them cancel international friendly against, I think, Cape Verde and what's it on the Burkina Faso or so. And they rather playing addressing non-league sides in one of the friendly games. We saw the Super Eagles beat their opponent in a training match by 12 goals to 0.
I remember when we went to the World Cup in '94. West Ham played friendly games against what we call small countries, right? And by the time I went to the US, he played against also non-league sides. One of them, we scored almost 15 goals one of those games too. And when West Ham was asked, why are you doing this? He said, it's Nigeria's first time at the World Cup. I'd rather have the players play against countries who can win to boost their morale than play against the big countries, lose, and they go into the World Cup, with their heads hanging low. So maybe Pesero knows something. Maybe the team has not, inspired the confidence of Nigerians in the past 2 years. Maybe he knows all of that. So it will be better for the players to go into the AFCON with their heads high. It doesn't matter. Non-league side, it doesn't matter. They're going to play friendly games. They're going to win those games. And they're going to go into the AFCON feeling like winners. They need to play Brazil or play against Cameroon to go to the AFCON. The proper game starts on Sunday. So maybe that's what Pesero is thinking, just maybe. But whatever he does, whatever is his plan, Nigerians want to see, 1, decent football by the national team, and 2, that will qualify first from the group, and then we'll take our chances on what happens later in the tournament.
Well, Nigeria right now involved in just training matches just to get shape, like China did say there, just to boost the confidence of the players, get ahead of the competition, who gets underway in just about 7 days from now. And let's look at it on the general notes. A lot of football is played for commercial reasons, so to say. And for this year's CAF competition, we are having a whopping $7 million available to the winner of the competition. What do you what does this make? This is, we are told, is over 40% increase from what the last winner did get from the competition. Winners 4 million. Second place team, I'm sorry, second place team will have $4 million US, while the first place team will have as much as $7 million US.
A lot of Nigerians are going to compare it with Europe, as it's not big enough. But we can't always compare with Europe. We are not like Europe. They are a more developed continent than we are. We must grow at our own pace. There was a time at the AFCON that countries were playing for free. There was no prize money. Playing for free, just win the cup, be happy and go home. And there was a prize money, $1 million, then $2 million, then $3 million, and now it's $7 million. So I'm looking at the progression. And hopefully, if CAF can get their acts right in terms of their marketing strategy for the AFCON, we might begin to have more as prize money, because if you consider what some countries spend, like Nigeria, like say Ghana, like Cameroon, like Cote d'Ivoire, to play the AFCON, of course, $7 million is really nothing compared to what has been thrown in. But like I said, I'm looking at progression. There was a time that countries will spend all this money and get nothing. But at least not when I get $7 million. So progression is progress.
Progress coming in the way of football in terms of finance and reward as well in African football. A lot of people believe that with Mosepe as the headsman of African football, and that's why we're having to get more money coming to football, because he's a top-level businessman.
Yes, I always say that to run a football federation, to run a sports association, you don't really need to be a footballer or a handballer. You need to be a good manager, right? If you can run a small business to grow from one mini shop to a supermarket chain, the strategy you put in can be used to make your football association or federation grow. It's about strategy. It's about managerial, ability. So he has shown that he can do this, and so far, financially, people don't like his. Some people don't like his style. A lot of people don't like his style, his high-handedness, and the fact that he tends to, favor, should I say, businesses that he's linked to. I mean, there are those scandals. But the point is that for African football, we want progress. Under Hayatu, we saw progress, but it was very slow under Hayatu. So for him to have been here this short time and we are seeing some of these things we are seeing, for me, it's not bad. We can do better as Africa. We can do much better. But I'm looking at the progression, and I'm seeing that progress.
Progress in African football, especially when it comes to financial, rewards for the teams. You talked about Mosepe being a businessman. Of course, he is the very first to introduce Super League in the continent of Africa, and of course, the rest of the world as well. And I think it was it's highly rewarding for the teams that are going to be part of the Super League here in Africa. Well, we are looking at the African Cup of Nations 34th edition that gets underway in 7 days' time. And we're talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria preparing against teams that are non-league side in the United Arab Emirates, beating them by as many as 12 goals to nothing. But some other countries going to the African Cup of Nations are involved in what has been termed quality friendlies ahead of the Nations Cup. Togo, Algeria beat Togo by 3 goals to nothing in one of the friendly games with matches that took place at the weekend. Mali, Pumel, Guinea-Bissau, that has just arrived at the Nations Cup by 6 goals to 2. Congo DR, one of the former champions that will contest at the Nations Cup, played out a goalless draw with Angola. Burkina Faso lost to Iran by 2 goals to 1, while Tunisia played a goalless draw with Mauritania. A lot of people believe that this is the way to go rather than play non-league side.
Yeah, it's the way to go. Like I said, he must have his reasons, right? And if I was a press man covering the AFCON, that would be one of the questions I would ask him at the pre-match press conference before we play on Sunday. Why was your choice of games the non-league sides rather than national teams like yourself? From now, I'll just say, okay, he has his reason. But until we know the reason, they're going to keep talking about it. So maybe those that will go to the AFCON should ask that question. Like, I'll be talking to one of the journalists on Panako trying for the AFCON. That's one question I want you to ask. Why did you have this as a choice of games rather than play what you call high-profile friendly matches? Then we'll begin to get more insight as to why he did what he did.
We'll take a break at this point. We'll return back, in a jiffy. And when we do return, our question will be to China. Will be more about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. How prepared? The squad itself, I told you earlier, squad numbers have been given by CAF, and that's what will stand at the Nations Cup. But we look at all of the departments of the Super Eagles, from the goalkeeping department to the middle, and of course the attack, and why Nigeria is favored to at least go to the very crucial winning stage of this year's African Cup of Nations. When we return from the break, China will at least feed you on all of that.
It's New Year. The beginning of every new year signals a hope, faith, and design. We pray your desires for 2024 are met and that you enjoy abundant grace all year round. Happy New Year and welcome to Excellent 2024.
What the hell are you doing here? No, we are not in here.
Do you know that the moment my wife wanted to serve you some food, I was uncomfortable.
Actually, we wanted you to carry us to the next village.
Always imagine what it will feel like to be with you. She's a sweet wife, totally. I want my wife to be a good cook. Instead I've tasted a meal before. Maybe this rice is tasteless. Not even a fish that is blind. Monday is good. No, I don't carry the
I'm even tired. I'm even tired of this house. He's to marry me. Cassava in the morning, cassava in the afternoon, cassava in the night.
I just see you carry. I have seen you carry widows. Even all those young girls.
I'll bring for you. Anywhere you want me to go,
We told you that we are going to move the village. That's why you don't want to carry us, but you want to carry her. What is it? Let me ask you. Two of you get with him. From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Talk here on the Atlantic Television Network, and I still have China Chiro with me. Together we're looking at the latest around the African Cup of Nations, and China. Nigeria is one of the former champions of the African Cup of Nations. To be specific, they've won it 3 times, and a lot of people believe that it's possible to win it a 4th time. But how possible is it? The squad will have to determine. We know that in 2013, we had what looks like an average side, going to the Nations Cup with Stephen Keshi as the coach, and not a lot of people gave them the chance of winning the competition. They did win because of the quality of players they have. But this time around, the Super Eagles seem to have an array of, phenomenal or informed attackers, especially in Europe. And a lot of people believe that, oh, because we have a Victor Osimhen, we have a Victor Boniface, Nigeria should be able to score many goals at the African Cup of Nations because they are at least the marksmen in Europe as we speak. But it is not just about scoring. There are other departments of the game, from the goalkeeping department to the middle. This complements what happens in front of the attack. But first, how prepared in terms of quality of players do we have 25 going to the Nations Cup?
We don't have real quality. I think the only department we have real quality will be in the attack, with Victor Osimhen, Victor Boniface, and Ademola Lookman. But in other departments, we are struggling. We are struggling. The loss of Ndidi, it's a big blow to us because he would have been able to cement that midfield for us. So we don't really have the kind of quality we saw in the 1980 team or the 1994 team. We don't have that kind of quality. And it's worst between the sticks, the goalkeepers. It's actually, for me, it's our worst department. So for this AFCON, we just hope that the coach can get his selection right and the team can play as a unit, because in terms of that one person that can make the difference, Osimhen, Boniface, Lookman, the attackers, if you don't feed them, they can't score. Back in those days, Yakubu said, feed the yak. If you feed me, I'll score. Who feeds them? And therein lies our problem with this team.
Well, who feeds the players in the front line? We have notable attackers, but who feeds them? But let's see. Football right now is played from the back, and the first is the goalkeeping department. 3 goalkeepers are listed and given squad numbers for the African Cup of Nations. Prominent among the Nigerian side, Francis Uzor is our best goalkeeper repeatedly, and for me, it looks like he's trying to, mock the Nigerian goalkeeping department. He was a former coach of the team. He knows the team a little bit. So, do you agree with those who think that the goalkeeping department is our weakest going to the Nations Cup?
It's our weakest because we have chosen Francis Uzor as our number 1 goalkeeper. Unless injury or illness, which we don't pray for, Uzor will be our first choice keeper at the AFCON. Personally, I think Wabali is a better goalkeeper than Uzor. But who throws in a greenhorn at international level in a tournament when you have someone that has been to the World Cup and the AFCON? So I'm thinking, when you look at Pesero, in all the matches he played as coach, whether competitive game, World Cup qualifier, AFCON qualifier, friendly match, he used Francis Uzor in spite of the criticisms against him and his mistakes. He used Francis Uzor in all but one of the games he played. And that game against Sierra Leone was because Uzor was not eligible to play that one. So it just shows that he has found his way and to be Francis Uzor. But some people are saying, for him to have flown to South Africa to visit Wabali, he must have seen something. I don't know what he has seen in Wabali. I think Wabali is the best of the 3 goalkeepers, but I'm not the coach. The coach has used Uzor so far, and let's sit back and just enjoy the AFCON with Uzor in goal. Like I said, except illness or injury, which we don't pray for, Uzor will start for Nigeria at the AFCON.
Uzor most likely to start for Nigeria, but a lot of other pundits believe that sometimes you put your hand into the fire, to get some outstanding result. Stanley Wabeli, looking at his record, at the South African League, he plays for Chippa in South Africa Premier League. He's had more game time as compared to the other 2 goalkeepers, in the squad, and so he looks like a better conditioned goalkeeper going to the African Cup of Nations. Yes,
this season Wabali has played 15 games, conceded 14 goals, and kept 7 clean sheets. As compared to Francis Uzor, who has only played 5 games this season, conceded 7 goals and 1 clean sheet. So Wabali has had more goals. He has had more clean sheets. I watched Wabali play at Go Round FC, at Eimba FC, at Lobby Stars FC, and I saw a future Super Eagles goalkeeper. I've not watched him at Chippa United yet, but for those who have watched him, they feel he's a much better version of the Nigerian League version. So I think that Wabali could start, or he should start. But again, I'm just thinking, I'm not the coach. The coach has used Uzor in all but one of his games. So it's most likely he'll start Uzor again, in spite of the critics and in spite of the blunders and in spite of the poor performance. The coach will start Francis Uzor.
Okay, let's stay away from the goalkeeping department, and now let's look at the middle. You talked about the replacement of Ndidi. In your opinion, Ndidi looks like the stabilizing factor in that middle. We have just 5 players invited, into the midfield position for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. with the loss of the replaced by Al Hassan, who plays, I think, in the Belgian league, he plays for Antwerp. Do you think his debut, appearance with the team will maybe, let's say, bring some stability? Because if you look at it, he's played in the Champions League this year with his club side, and Antwerp is not doing badly, in the Belgian league. Do you see those who are there, the other four, given the kind of complementary role you will expect of the absence of Ndidi?
Ndidi marks well. He's young, he's athletic, he has 360 vision for a player in that position, and he can also push forward and make attempts at goal. He's confident on the ball too, and the whole team has confidence in him. Those are the attributes of Ndidi. So for Al Hassan to come into the team barely 2 weeks to the AFCON and get the starting shirt, he will have to show these qualities to the coach. Show these qualities in such a way that the coach will not be in doubt that he can play that role. But in the absence of that, we have Raphael.
Right.
We also have Joe Adibo, who can play as an offensive midfielder and as a DM too. So we will make do with what we have. But no doubt, without a doubt, without a shred of doubt, indeed his loss is a big blow to our team. Hopefully Al Hassan comes in and plugs in that hole in his absence has left for the team.
Well, Ndidi, of course, if you remember the Sunday Olyse of those days, what stability brought to the middle of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Nigeria needs a stable player in the middle, and because most of the moves starts from the, it's orchestrated from the middle, and right now we do not have a player who has a proper chemistry. Let's see whether Hassan can get the job done. Do you think he can get the job done, in spite of the fact that he will be meeting with the players for the first time?
He can. I would think that playing in Belgium at Antwerp, playing in the UEFA competitions, and the fact that he got the nod to replace an injured Ndidi immediately means that he had always been on the short list of the coaches, and again, we have not watched their training sessions. The coach has kept the sessions closed in the Middle East where he was with the team. He kept the sessions closed. So, like I said, hopefully he'll be able to show these attributes in such a way that the coach will know without a doubt that he should start. And if he does that successfully, then we may not miss Ndidi. We are in AFCONs and at World Cups, we have seen players who just come in because one person is injured and take the shine from the other person and now become a mainstay in the team. We have seen it over and over again. At the last AFCON we won in 2013, Sunday Mba was not a starter when the AFCON started. He came in the third game of the competition and he became our savior, winning the AFCON for us. So we have seen it happen over and over and over again. So if it's going to happen again this time, it won't be a surprise.
Let's go to the attack. Like we said earlier, everybody believes the strength of the Super Eagles of Nigeria is in attack. Do you really think that this is true? Because what happens in Europe is different, completely different when it comes to African football.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But for Victor Osimhen, he has shown that just like he does in Europe, he can do in Africa.
He's leading with 10 goals
yes,
in qualifiers.
Back then, Rashidi Yekini will score for Victoria Setúbal and score for the Super Eagles. Meanwhile, other strikers like Ikpeba, will do well at Monaco and doesn't get much goals with us. Now, it's the same with Victor Osimhen. He has been scoring goals for both club and country. Since Victor Boniface came into the team, Pesero likes to play both of them, both to complement each other. So it's his choice. Do you play one man in front with two wingers supporting him? There's Chukwueze on one side, there's Simon on the other side, there's Ademola Lookman supporting him, or do you play, a twin strike formation? Again, these are things that we expect the coach to have perfected in the Middle East where we have been for the past 10 days. But our attack is the least of our problems. We have personnel: Ademola Lookman, Osimhen, Boniface, Chukwueze, Simon. We have personnel in the attack. Who will feed them? That's the problem. Can the midfield do well enough to shield the defense from attack and at the same time feed the attackers to score? Time will tell. That should be Pesero's that should have been his biggest problem at the training camp. If he solves that problem, or if he is able to solve that problem, then he has been able to solve our Super Eagles problem.
Well, It's just about 7 days from now, we'll begin to know the results of these preparations that have taken just about a year. Remember, the last Nations Cup took place about a year ago because of disruption in calendar because of COVID and the rest. But let's hope that this Nations Cup will throw up some new players. Every Nations Cup brings up players. We've mentioned some few names, but China, we know that 24 countries for the first time will be going to the Nations Cup. And going to the Nations Cup, a lot of people are dropping names. Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Victor Osimhen, and many more. Which player do you think will really attract your attention good enough to be the face of African football in the year 2024?
In no particular order, Victor Osimhen, Mohamed Salah, and there's Pape Sarr.
Yes.
Yes, the Tottenham Hotspur midfielder who plays for Senegal. These are three players I'll be looking out for. And I say this, and if Stanley Wabali gets to be in goal, at the end of the tournament, Africa will say, we have found a new goalkeeper.
Well, I think we have to take risks sometime. The coaches of the Super Eagles of Nigeria have to take risks sometime. A lot of people have talked about the quality of the bench of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Finidi George, Pesoro, Finidi George, the former winner of the competition, should probably assist. But some people, most times, lack faith in the local coaches. Do you see coaches ending and maybe the Senegalese coach?
From the results we have had so far, yes. From the performance of the team, no. Because the team has not really played well, right? But we've had results. A lot of those games that we lost have been friendly games. The real competitive games, we have won them. Forget the last two World Cup qualifiers. We had poor performance and poor results. But I'm saying that if you look at on the average what Pesero has done, result-wise, he has done well. Then again, when Pesero was appointed, in his first press conference, he said something straightforward. He said, I'm here to win the AFCON. He said it from day one. I'm here to win the AFCON. And like I said earlier, this is the first time you have the luxury of 10, 11, 12 days training with the team before a game. So I'm looking back at his first press conference. I'm here to win the AFCON, and I has had the time to train with the team. Maybe he will justify his wages. Just maybe. Just maybe
Pesero have to justify his wages because he is one of the highest paid coaches going to the African Cup of Nations. And with the backlog of his salary being paid, the 15-month salary being paid to him just before the Nations Cup, hopefully it is believed that he has enough motivation to get the job done. Let's go away now from the African Cup of Nations and how prepared Nigeria is because we're running out of time. Liverpool last night sent out Arsenal from the FA Cup for 2024.
It was a game of two halves, right? The first half belonged to Arsenal, completely dominated, had shots at goal, shots that went off the bar, and just maybe if you're an Arsenal fan or an Arsenal player, you would have thought we should have buried this in the first half. Then midway into the second half, Liverpool took over because at the start of the second half, Arsenal still had the upper hand in that game. And Liverpool were the more clinical team because it's not about how much you possess the ball or how many shots you take at goal or on target. It's about what you can convert. So Liverpool were the more clinical team, converting two chances. One an own goal and the second one through Luis Diaz. So Liverpool will win the fourth round draw today. Arsenal will rue their loss and now probably focus on the league and the Champions League that they are still in the race. But for yesterday's game, it was a game of two halves.
Game of two halves. First half belonged to Arsenal. Second half, and the most important half belonging to Liverpool, that takes them into the fourth round of the FA Cup. Draws are expected in a moment from now. China, over the weekend, we saw the loss of Mario Zagallo, one man who has won the World Cup 4 times as a player and once as a coach. Only this couple of hours ago, Denise, the coach of the Brazilian national team, you remember Zagallo has handled the national team before, was sacked.
Now, coach sacked, Sao Paulo's coach Dorival Jr. being touted to take over. Now, that's the way Brazilians operate. They look at their league. They look at the coach who is performing well in their league. They want to maintain their style, their flavor. They also understand that 2/3 of their players play in Europe. They understand that. But they want to maintain the Brazilian flavor. So they're going to pick a coach from who is doing well in the league. Chiche, who was at the last World Cup, was a typical Brazil person. So hopefully this coach will come in, he will give the Brazilians what they want, the style, the flavor, and the results too, which is very important to Brazil. And that's what will make them happy.
Brazil, talking about the new coach with Brazil, Dorival Jr., coach of Sao Paulo. He won the league last year with Sao Paulo, but before then he was coach of Fluminense, and they won the Libertadores Cup. And I think this quality is bringing him to the national team. And like China did mention, that's the way the Brazilians operate. They look at your quality and your achievement within the period before bringing you to the top position with the Brazilian national team. So we say welcome to Dorival Jr., coach of, just now former coach of Sao Paulo, who is now going to be the head coach of the Brazilian national team, preparing the team for the World Cup. And just before we wrap up, China, talking about Brazil and the World Cup, this is their worst ever prepared side going to